Welcome to our first 2013 edition of The Road To. We're focusing this year on Virginia politics, of course. It's an election year in Virginia, and it's always an election year in Virginia. But I'm your host, Patty Morrissey, and appreciate you watching today. We're going to start with an introduction of our political analysts with Mike Lane, who's a regular for years and years. Go ahead, Mike, and give us a little background.
Good morning, Patty and panel. Good to see everyone again. As our regular viewers might remember, once upon a time I was sentenced to a brief term of public office in the county of Arlington as a Republican, only one elected there in the last 44 years. I'd like to get rid of that title if we could elect one more. Worked my way up to party chairman, district party chairman, and now my function in life is trying to get good Republicans elected to public office. Okay, thanks, Mike. And Liz Miller, our political analyst on the other side.
Hi, I'm Liz Miller. I am on the board of NARAL Pro-Choice Virginia Foundation. We focus on education, sex education, legal issues, and keeping choice available for women around the state.
Okay, thanks, Liz. We have two guests today. First is Fairfax County Democratic Committee Chairman Cesar Del Aguila, which means of the eagle. We need to make sure we get that in. Go.
Glad to be here. Good morning. A little shout out to Cindy Browning and all the Democrats out there. As chair of Fairfax County, my job is to make Mike miserable and purge the county of any elected Republican. So that's why, and we're here to discuss some really good things, so happy to be here.
Okay, thanks, Cesar. And we also have our candidate here, John Bell, who's running for the House of Delegates, and I forgot the district number, but you can fill us in on that. And this is his second go-around, and I'll let you go ahead and take on, I think we're having a microphone problem. Okay, go ahead, John, and give us some background on you.
John Bell. I'm running in the 87th district, and I ran in 2009 against Bob Marshall and was with the 13th district at the time. I live in the same house that I lived in before, but the redistricting of 2011 put me into the new district. I'm a retired Air Force officer. I was in the Air Force almost 26 years. And also I'm very involved in the community. I coach the boys tennis team at Freedom High School. I've done that for 6 years. Real labor love, and very involved in with my family and in my community. Glad to be here today.
Tell us about your kids.
We have 5 children, and my wife is also retired Air Force like me, and 3 of our children, I'm proud to say, have served in the military. Our oldest is Danielle, then John, who actually served for 6 years, was deployed 6 times. Danielle is still in the Air National Guard today. Joshua, who served in the Air National Guard for 6 years, he's a student at the University of Texas at Austin. Then we have Saoirse, who's a student here at Northern Virginia Community College. She serves her community in other ways with youth volunteering.
And tell us what her name means.
Saoirse, Gaelic for freedom. So as long
Freedom Bell.
Yeah, as long as you'll say Freedom Bell, it works pretty well. But,
love it.
Ding, ding, ding.
And a difficult spelling, but it's a great name, and we love that name. And she seems to fit the personality with the name very, very well.
And then you have Kyle.
Our youngest is Kyle, and Kyle is a second-year student at the University of Virginia, computer engineering student. And Kyle is a graduate of Freedom High School, and he played in multiple sports when he was there. And he's super happy to be at UVA and to be a Who. He's really a happy camper.
And I'm really excited because my daughter's going to UVA too. So we are very fortunate to have great colleges in Virginia. So we're going to get down to business now, and just for fun, we're going to start with North Korea and any observations. And I'll just let anyone throw in what they think is really going on. That happens to be what I do for a living, is try to understand things like that. But Cesar, what about you?
I learned this week that Kim Jong is North Korean for bat guano crazy. I mean, I cannot speak to what's on that person's mind. I mean, as an outsider looking in, I don't get it. I
have seen in the blogosphere that there was actually some American maneuvers going on the South Korean side.
Well, they're the annual, they're regular exercises, right, Mike?
And so the North Korean posturing may be about those exercises, but I thought that they had happened every year. I don't know. That's But you would probably know better because you've been there, right?
Well, I have been there. I served 2 of my tours in the Far East, one at Okinawa, Japan, Kadena Air Base, the other one at Anderson Air Force Base in Guam. Both those are first line of defense for North Korea, actually for South Korea against North Korea. I've been to the DMZ, the tunnels underneath. The threat is real, and the rhetoric is scary. I think that bottom line, we have to stay vigilant to the situation. I don't believe right now they're a credible threat to the United States, but I also don't believe we can wait till they are to do something about it. And I believe we need China to get involved as part of that regional solution to that problem.
I think that's actually the key, John, is this is an opportunity for us to hopefully finally find a way to work together with China on a mutual interest. I don't think, China always sort of likes North Korea being the bellicose bad boy out there that nobody can control, but at this point, they may be taking it a bit far for China's comfort, and so it's a real opportunity for the United States to work with China on this and see if we can come to a resolution. Our prop question was, are they insane? Well, we don't know if Kim Jong-un is insane. We have to assume that he is. Sooner or later, many politicians wind up believing their own press releases. Yeah. His father probably never did really think that they were this world superpower. We don't know if the son does believe it, and if he does, I'm with John, the 2 military guys. We need to start, I'm not calling for an invasion at this point, but we need to start facilitating a regime change over there and resolving this, because it's only going to get worse.
Well, the rhetoric, they don't really have the capability to follow through on all the threats he's made, but it would be in China's interest to put him back in the box, because basically it's driving Japan and South Korea is going to try to get their own nuclear deterrent, because they don't want to have to rely forever on our extended deterrent, and especially Japan. The Taepodong, I was actually in Seoul when they did their first Taepodong test over international waters and over the northern part of Japan, and that was huge precedent. That was way back in 1998. But they have been picking away, and it's really interesting that this 29-year-old leader is just trying to push every button with cutting off a hotline, and I can't remember, he does something different every day that sort of escalates. Ambassadors need to leave by to
the point, I think President Obama has started to engage with the Chinese, and I think that will certainly play itself out. But definitely scary stuff there.
Yeah. Anyway, good conversation, guys. Let's go sort of closer to home with the gun control debate. This keeps
Loudoun County.
Go ahead, Liz. She's ready for this.
Loudoun County pulled out of the Washington Council of Governments, the Washington Area Council of Governments, because...
As did Prince William County.
As did Prince William County and Fauquier County, because COG said that they wanted to back the National Federation of Police Chiefs on reasonable gun control. And so...
Universal background check?
Universal background check, the common sense maintenance of a reasonable degree of knowledge of who's got guns, or who's allowed to have guns. And my all-Republican business board pulled out of the Council of Governments over a gun issue. When the Council of Governments takes care of roads, takes care of airport noise, takes care of all sorts of really vital business interests for the region, and guns? Guns are not a vital business interest in the region. Roads are a vital business interest in the region. I don't understand what Matt Letourneau's bosses are thinking of this.
Let's let John, since he's a candidate and he's going to be dealing with sort of the state versus the federal dynamic here, or the county-state federal dynamic.
Well, I support universal background checks, and my position is I don't want to take anyone's gun away from them. I believe in the Second Amendment, but at the same time, I don't think it should be easier to get an assault weapon than it is to get a driver's license. Get a driver's license, you go through a knowledge test, you go through a use test, you have an eye test. And I don't think, most people don't think that's unreasonable, but you can currently get an assault weapon without doing any of those things. So I think that's a common sense, reasonable, moderate approach.
What do you, Mike, what's going on the Republican, on the
let me talk about
NRA
COG
side?
let me talk about COG for a second, because I used to serve on COG. I was a member as an elected official in Arlington County.
Council of Governments.
Right, Washington Metropolitan Area Council of Governments.
Okay.
And I was a member of COG as an elected member of the Arlington County Board, and I served on various COG committees. COG has a charter, okay, and they are constituted for purposes of facilitating regional cooperation on environmental and infrastructure issues. That is what their charter limits them to doing. By addressing things outside their charter, they're actually violating their charter. And I don't know exactly what happened in Loudoun, but I do know in Prince William County what they did was they didn't quit, but they said, okay, we're not paying our dues anymore until the Council of Governments comes back and stops straying outside its charter and focuses on its mission. That may be what Loudoun did. It may not be what Loudoun did. But COG has no expertise in this. I don't know why they would be.
I'm kind of confused. Those counties said they're pulling out because they don't support.
No, Prince William is. I don't know about Loudoun. Prince William is withholding their dues until COG stops violating its charter and comes back and focuses on things that it's specifically chartered to do.
The way I understand it, Loudoun County has pulled out of COG until the other people on COG agree to back off on their, I guess it was just a symbolic vote on gun control. Because there's nothing that they can actually do about gun control, but they basically were saying that they support reasonable gun control efforts. Similar to the way that county boards vote on whether or not they're going to support state legislation.
Just as basically a statement of
do I support this or not?
Okay.
And so Loudoun County and Prince William County and Fauquier County came out as the losers on this particular vote of support for gun control, reasonable gun control. And so Loudoun County said, we're going to take our ball and go home. And it's stupid on several levels. One is that the Council of Governments has been generally a very pro-business council, very good voice on bringing infrastructure changes and other things to our region. Loudoun County has just grown enough that we could have had an extra seat on the board. So, pulling out when you're going to be getting more influence on it is ridiculous. And quite frankly, considering that Metro is coming to Loudoun, that there's a whole new set of changes that Richmond is suggesting, the Outer Beltway, all sorts of things, the Tri-County Connector, which is actually going to only be two-county connector, but all of those things that COG is really involved in and that Loudoun really needs to be involved in.
They're pulling out.
They're pulling out. It's ridiculous.
Cesar, do you have any comments on gun?
So I think
issues?
there's a lot of this new information jerk reaction for a lot of people. There seems to be a lot of confusion, a lot of fear. I can tell you officially, as the Fairfax County Democratic Party, I have not seen a single piece of policy resolution to the folks out there. We're not trying to take anyone's guns. We're for some reasonable checks. Maybe we do check folks that might have mental history, difficulty. Maybe we do check people that have been charged with or convicted of spousal abuse. These are some things that I think we can all agree on, and if you talk to my Republican friends, which I do, they're in favor of things like that. And I will tell you, we are not about taking guns. In fact, a lot of us do own guns. A lot of Democrats hunt, but we're against some of these crazy amounts of ammunition and things like that.
We're gun owners in my household, and I'm actually shocked at how easy it is to get a gun here. Mostly because I came from New York City, where even bulletproof vests are illegal. I think that is also ridiculous. It's just, there should be...
Nobody ever called Mayor Bloomberg reasonable.
No, nobody ever did, but he wasn't mayor when I was there. But the point is that you should be able to get a gun if you're going to be a responsible gun owner. And there should be a list of things that enable you to be a responsible gun owner. Do you have a gun safe? Do you have trigger locks? Are the children in your house going to have access to them? I mean, there was a 3-year-old who shot his father just recently. We need to be able to say, we don't want to keep you from having guns, but we want to keep people.
Let's go up a notch to how is this going to play out in the governor's race this year and at the state House of Delegates, Senate level. How will this play out?
I think folks are more focused on the economy, quite frankly. I think for the governors, the candidates, I think it's going to be about how we bring jobs to Virginia, how we bring corporations to Virginia. And then how they approach that, I think, is going to be the issue. I'm not so sure the gun issue come November is going to be as big. The economy is still going to be struggling with, the amount of jobs that were added this past month weren't great, but we're still in the positive. So I think for the governor candidates, the challenge is how do you address bringing jobs to Virginia?
I think that there's going to be a lot of money brought in on the gun issue, but I don't necessarily think that it's going to be a voting issue for people.
Yeah,
I do think, though, that social issues may end up being a big voting issue, especially considering who's running on the Republican side. I know that my friends and the people who stand with me for choice will be out busting our humps to try to make sure that we don't have Cuccinelli for governor.
Well, let's talk about the social issues, because even though I think Cesar's right that there'll be this conversation about economic improvement, we all know there's going to be a huge difference between what Ken Cuccinelli as governor would do versus what Terry McAuliffe as governor would do. So, John, what are your thoughts in terms of how the social issues may or may not have traction in this upcoming race?
Well, I think sometimes social issues actually are a direct attack on the economy. Many companies don't want to do business in Virginia if all their employees can't be treated equally. I am for marriage equality. In matter of fact, both of our Virginia senators are for marriage equality. Our president's for marriage equality. Just about everybody, except for those on the far right fringe of the Republican Party, like Ken Cuccinelli and David Ramadan, are as well. So these issues, I think, are also not just a social issue, but they're an economic issue, because again, companies want to do business in Virginia if they believe that everyone in their company is going to be treated fairly and equally in the state.
Well, especially since it actually saves companies money if they don't have to keep 2 sets of books about who's actually married and who's not Virginia married. Those things actually cost companies money to have to keep 2 separate.
I with all due respect, colleagues, I don't see this at all. I think Caesar knocked it out of the park. We might have these.
He wants something
issues.
from me.
We might have these issues that single issue voters are going to be focused on, and that they will cast their vote on their single issue.
As usual.
But as usual, nothing new there. But I think that we're going to be talking about the economy. We're going to be talking about job creation. We're going to be talking about whether or not it's a low-tax, pro-business environment, something that creates jobs. And these other things for the election, I think, are, they're important to the small slice of the electorate, that it's their #1 decisive issue, but it's not going to decide the election.
Sounds like Mike's voting for Terry McAuliffe.
There's a crossover in my mind here, though, because Ken Cuccinelli, as a representative of sort of the far-right, set of principles. One of the things that really struck me, that one of the first things he did was basically take to court a UVA professor who had been involved in climate change research. Made some mistakes on his data, but turned this guy's report into a legal, spending Attorney General state funds to basically suppress academic research on climate change, which to me, that's sort of one of the, okay, we're going to deny science part of the party that I don't think you're in. But it ties over to economic issues. And so Terry McAuliffe, who's been gung-ho on how do you create a green economy and done, set up businesses.
In Mississippi.
For some reason it wasn't a good, go ahead.
Let me address this one. Remember, Virginia did not allow an environment where he could build here. Now he's got a commitment to his investors, as any good businessman does. If the state of Virginia is not friendly to businesses starting manufacturing here, what are they doing? They're going somewhere else, which is exactly the point.
And that's why I bring it up, because if we're focused on economic issues, what are those economic issues that are going to move Virginia into the new economy and not into the pump more oil economy? And I think John's dying to talk.
On this issue, I think, bottom line, I believe we need a more moderate approach. If you're too far to the right or to the left, it's hard to come across the aisle to come up with solutions. And I think if we look at our issues now, both federally and in Virginia, we've often been stuck at gridlock, and it's been an all or nothing, and it's nothing. For instance, my opponent, he voted against all 3 transportation bills because there were things he didn't like. He voted against the Virginia budget because he didn't like Medicaid expansion. An all or nothing approach often results in nothing. I believe Virginia can position ourselves as a leader in clean energy. We have great universities in Virginia. I said my son goes to the University of Virginia. I'd like to have clean energy partnerships where we can produce engineers, where we are a leader in the jobs of the next 50 years in clean energy. But if we have a governor who denies climate change, I don't think we're going to attract clean energy companies to do business in Virginia. So I think it's not just an environmental issue. I believe by going too far to either side, it hurts us economically, perhaps for a long period of time.
John, I think companies make their decisions on where they're going to locate based on what the tax situation is and what the schools are like for their employees. Those are the 2 driving factors, not these other ancillary things.
Except that Virginia does not give tax breaks for green companies, and North Carolina does. And that's why he went
Virginia likes to raid
he actually went to Mississippi. And why Mr. McAuliffe is not running for governor of Mississippi, I don't understand.
Anyway.
Because he's lived in Virginia for the last 25, 30 years, right?
He didn't even approach the economic development people to ask them what they could do.
He did. He went to Governor McDonald.
He didn't ask them what they could do.
He did.
All right, well, we can do some...
Mississippi cut him a corporate welfare deal that he couldn't refuse. End of discussion. He should run for governor of Mississippi.
No, he lives here.
He's lived here for 25 years.
I'm going to do some fact checking at our break.
Please do.
At least 3
but
nights
I think the overall point is that
Virginia too.
Exploring what those economic initiatives really are, if that's going to be the central point of this gubernatorial race and the statewide, or I'm sorry, the state races. Really getting a clear message on what are those things that are going to bring greater prosperity to Virginia as the defense budget draws down and sequestration really takes its full effect. There's got to be something there to bring in. So I don't really know exactly what Cuccinelli's ideas are on that yet. Maybe you can fill us in a little later. But
well, considering the fact that he really does not think that government spending is a good thing, and almost the entire economy of Northern Virginia is based on government spending, that's a big difference of opinion in terms of what are we going to be doing to drive the Virginia economy? Well, Virginia economy is driven by Northern Virginia, and to some extent the bases that we have down in Virginia Beach area, and that's all government spending. What are we going to do if none of that's there?
There's also this philosophy. I think there's they're competing. There's one side that says, okay, let's raid the general fund, and that way we can just spread it out here and now. And there's the other side, the Democrats. We believe in investing in infrastructure, things that will not necessarily benefit us here and now today, but there's going to be a time where it's better in the future for everyone. And I think that, for me, boils down the different philosophies in the 2 candidates. Terry is looking at this long-term, strategically. How do we position the Commonwealth to be successful, not next year, but 5, 10, 50 years down the road. We have a longer term view than those that are sitting here wanting to pull back because they're not getting their way here and now. And I think that's the climate we're in.
Especially since if you think about building infrastructure, you can't outsource those jobs.
Right.
Infrastructure jobs have to be here. If you're going to build a road, you need the people who are going to build the road here. If you're going to build a railway, you need to have the people who are going to build that railway here. Power lines, burying power lines all over the state, or bringing better water treatment plants, or bringing better, or even bringing solar panel developers instead of coal mining, because coal will run out. Things like that.
We've got to wrap up for this half of the show.
Here.
In 10 seconds, I think what businesses and economic growth in the future is about a pro-business environment, a low taxes that promote economic growth and job creation, and finally maintaining Virginia's right to life. I haven't heard Terry McAuliffe endorse any of that agenda.
We'll get back to that second half. We'll be right back after these public service announcements.
Following the tragic events of September 11th, there have been hundreds of violent attacks against innocent Americans.
Remember what that flag you're waving stands for. Remember, please stop the hate.
We're stronger when we are united.
Remember what that flag you're waving stands for. One nation.
Under God.
Indivisible.
With liberty.
And justice.
For all.
In America, there's either room for everyone, or it's not America.
Don't pick the wrong fight.
Let's keep America land of the free.
Stop the hate.
You'd never know it on the battlefield, but nearly half of today's military are National Guard and reservists. However, they can't answer our nation's call without their employer's support. If you're an employer, visit esgr.org and find out how to do your part. After all, their response depends on yours.
This is Mommy's bed. Me and Jenny were jumping on it. Mommy's gun fell on the floor. I was a cowboy. Bang, 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 bang. I said, Jenny, wake up, it's just pretend. But she wouldn't wake up.
I'm sick of dealing with you. I'm sick of
I work 6 days a week. Who do you think you
are?
Straight.
Don't you ever talk back to me again! You just shut up!
What are you crying about?
What a child learns about violence, a child learns for life. Teach carefully. We can show you how. Act Against Violence. Call 877-ACT-WISE for a free brochure.
Sweetheart, smoke outside now. You promised.
Okay, hon.
Sweetheart, smoke outside now. You promised.
What kind of man are you?
I'm a father.
Look here, my father was a father, and he smoked his brains out in the house.
Watch as he blows those smoke rings on my little red face.
You probably have asthma.
Asthma? Schlasma. I'm telling you, nothing's gonna happen to your kids.
I swear.
Don't swear when you're lying. You know very well that thousands of kids get bronchitis, ear infections, and even pneumonia from their parents' cigarette smoke. And didn't you promise your little angels you'd smoke outside?
Hey, Daddy.
Those little devils are just so sweet.
Do the right thing.
Please, smoke outside.
Until you can stop, go out for your kids.
Take the pledge. Call 1-800-513-1157.
As time flows on, there are places we return to again and again. Precious places. Timeless places. Places that, with your help, can endure forever. I'm Paul Newman. Help the Nature Conservancy save the last great places around the world.
Welcome back to The Road To. We're talking about state races. In particular, we have the 87th House of Delegates candidate here, John Bell. We're going to go pick up where we left off because Mike would like to refine the point he was trying to make.
In 4 seconds or less, you know, we all put our foot in our mouth and say something, you know, just, I meant right to work. That's one of the things.
Put it back in the context of the point you were making.
I was talking about the fact that it'll be low taxes, an economic growth environment, job creation, and maintenance and preservation of Virginia's right to work statute that attracts businesses and promotes economic growth.
Okay, you're saying that's kind of a fundamental philosophical piece
that's a difference, I think, between Ken and Terry McAuliffe.
One of the things that I just want to say about infrastructure changes that when you're building infrastructure, those are jobs that high school graduates can take. They don't have to have a college degree in general. And this state does not have a whole lot of jobs that are good paying jobs for high school graduates.
Well, let's talk about the transportation issue, because obviously that's a constant battle in Richmond over what is a good way to fund transportation, and we continue to need better infrastructure. I'm going to go to John as the candidate first on what you thought was good about the transportation bill, what we might want to improve, sort of just give us a background on how that played out, given that we just finished our 2013 session of the state legislature.
Well, the transportation bill that was passed is really, I think, a great accomplishment, because it's been, you know, over 20 years since anything close to that was accomplished. I think it represents a true compromise, because there's elements of it that people from both sides of the aisle don't like. And one of the things I don't like, as someone who owns 2 hybrid vehicles, is the hybrid tax. There's a hybrid tax. I applaud Governor McDonald for lowering it. It was originally $100. He lowered it to $64 a year.
And that's per year, part of your registration?
It is. It's a separate tax, but it'll be collected at that time. And you know, I don't like that part of it, but if I were a delegate at the time, I would have voted for it. My opponent, David Ramadan, voted against that. He said a lot about transportation and tolls, but he voted against all 3 bills on transportation since he served. And I think that's very bad.
What were his reasons for voting against them?
Well, I mean, number one, he signed a no tax pledge. So I think that anything that has revenue involved forced him to say no. Another thing that I believe is problematic about it is, you know, his statements where he wanted everything to be the way he wanted it and all or nothing. And frankly, we're not in an all or nothing world. I think it involves compromise. This bill isn't perfect. I don't like parts of it, but I would have voted for it because we need to move forward on transportation.
Cesar was mentioning
I heard from every delegate in the county and we were pretty split on this. I will remain split and neutral, but I agree. The hybrid tax is backwards. It's not forward-looking. It sends the wrong message. The jobs of the future are in these new tech emerging markets, and we should be encouraging, not discouraging, promoting those types of products. I think that was probably the biggest piece for me. It was backward looking.
And what were the good parts? I want to hear, what was it that after 20 years of not really making a lot of progress,
Well, again, because I'm neutral on this, I'm not going to say, because I got delegates for it, delegates against it, so I'm going to remain neutral on this.
I think one of the things that was positive was that there's a whole lot of new money for building infrastructure.
Okay, that matches federal money?
I believe so, but I could be wrong.
Did we get the metro out to past Dulles?
We have the metro to Dulles.
It's coming to 2 miles away from my house.
I mean, a couple of things it does. It gets us out of a maintenance-only status, and it provides more money for maintenance. It also earmarks money for Northern Virginia where we need it, so we can't go to other areas, and it will lower tolls, part of that money. So it does quite a few good things. I mean, bottom line, to Mike's point he made earlier about maintaining business for the future, if we don't invest in transportation, it's going to hurt us in business. We have to. We've seen our rating recently. We got a D rating on our infrastructure. You know, we have 1,800 bridges in the Commonwealth that VDOT says are structurally deficient. We have to invest in transportation. It's an important part of our economy, both for jobs, but it's an important part for families, because people are stuck in traffic. They're not spending time with their families because they're in traffic.
Back when I used to work near here in Merrifield, and I lived in Loudoun County, I would have to plan to spend 2 hours on the road every day, each way, just because sometimes it would only take me a half an hour to get to work, and sometimes it would take me 2 hours to get to work. And I could never actually plan on which it was going to be.
Yeah. Well, Mike, were you going to make a comment about the transportation?
I disagree with John's terminology. Governments don't invest in anything. Private equity and capital invests in things. Government spends money, and sometimes government spending money is a good thing, such as in transportation.
Bonds?
So I don't begrudge the...
Bonds are investments, right?
The space program?
Government spends
the
money.
Brain Initiative?
Yeah.
Which I happen to like.
That's spending money, which was a good expenditure of money, or will be a good expenditure of money. It's not an investment. An investment is something that private equity and capital does.
Okay, but don't you agree that that often follows, having been a defense contractor for a long time, the private expenditure often follows the government's lead about priorities.
Not denying that, but that doesn't turn the government spending into an investment. It's a spending of money. So
it absolutely is an investment.
It's absolutely an investment for the
future.
future.
We'll agree to disagree on that. On the transportation bill, I'll disagree with them as well. I think look, what do you pay transportation taxes for? You pay it for development and maintenance of the transportation network. If you've got a vehicle that is using the transportation network, creating and causing the same wear and tear and damage on the transportation network, but somehow because of a tax situation is not paying their fair share of taxes, then fairness would dictate that hybrids pay the tax some other way.
But they're not actually creating the same wear and tear because they're not polluting as much.
No, the wear and tear comes from the damage.
There's also damage from the exhaust systems and stuff like that, and the hybrids do not create that same level.
Fairness dictates that they pay their fair share.
What was the analysis, though, of how much a typical, gas vehicle pays in taxes versus how much a hybrid person owning a hybrid? Was there any kind of analysis of?
Oh, I'm sure there was. You're a hybrid owner, John. How much is your gas bill? And I'll tell you how much my gas bill is. And that's the difference.
Doesn't the weight of the car also have make a difference in terms of the wear and tear that does an H2 is definitely going to cause more wear and tear than a Prius. It's bigger, it's heavier, it's just going to cause more wear and tear. If they're going to do a tax, it ought to be by weight. And they get less
mileage, so therefore they buy more gasoline, and therefore they pay more taxes.
But they should do it by weight.
You're overcomplicating things. At some point, you don't want to make it so complicated.
Can we kind of do an awkward transition to discussing some of the changes the laws passed on voter ID? Because obviously it's kind of something that we talked about all last year. But what happened in the legislature this year?
It's amazing to me that it is easier to buy a gun in this state than it is to become a voter.
Amen. I just want to ask the question, what problem are we trying to solve? I hear over and over from my friends on the right, we have to stomp out voter fraud. Well, can anyone please, I've asked this for 2 years now, bring me a case where someone in the Commonwealth was convicted of voting under a different name or there's clear evidence of voter fraud? Zero. Nada. Nothing. Niet. I can't say it in any other way. So what is it that we're trying to solve? There's no evidence of any voter fraud. Now, there are knuckleheads on the upside where they go out and they're paid to register voters and they'll like fill in Mickey Duck or Donald Mouse and turn that in for revenue. But that is not the same as someone going as Donald Mouse to the polls and voting with some ID. So let's be clear, there's no voter fraud.
Right.
So I'm not sure what problem we're trying to solve.
What do you think about this?
I disagree. I can't give you citations, but I've read specifically about isolated cases of voter fraud in Virginia. So there is. Look, there was a study that came out just this week. There's a coalition of 22 state registrars, State Board of Elections, that have gotten together to compare their voter lists. And we found out this week that 370,000 people who are on Virginia's voter rolls are also registered in other states to vote. Now, probably this is people who were in Virginia, moved out of state, registered someplace else, and never canceled their Virginia registration.
Are they voting in both places?
But probably. No. So I think what we want to do is we really do want to know who is casting votes in Virginia. I think that the legislation that worked its way through the General Assembly was eminently reasonable. I think that Lieutenant Governor Bowling did the right thing in serving and siding with the Democrats in terms of the implementation date, giving another 12 months for it to be implemented so that everybody can find out about it.
They're going to clean up the databases.
And have fully, 15 months to get a legitimate identification card. There's nobody that can't get an identification card in 15 months, I don't believe.
I would like to point out that there is no real way for you to cancel your registration in another state. When I moved down here from New York, I was registered to vote in New York. I registered, I got myself a driver's license down here, and at the same time I registered to vote with the motor voter bill. And I got registered to vote. The registration of Virginia is supposed to then send out an information saying, oh, we've got a new registrar here, and all other registrations from other states are supposed to be canceled.
Yeah.
That's the way it's supposed to work. It's not supposed to be on the voter to cancel their registration.
I didn't suggest it should be.
It's a database problem.
And it's supposed to be, okay, then when you vote, your next voting thing, you're only supposed to be able to vote in one place. And I have not heard of a single person voting in two places.
That's because this voter fraud is in the ethereal. So we have potentially 370,000 people registered in other states. That means 370,000 people are going to show up at the polls and try to vote in both places. Not the case.
No, I don't suggest that there will be 370, but if there's 70, that's 70 too many.
But that's my point. 70 people aren't voting in two different states.
We don't know that, Caesar.
We do know that because there's no evidence of it having been done. Until we, again, what is the problem we're trying to solve?
Right.
We're trying to maintain people's faith and confidence in the integrity of the voter system, which is paramount to the maintenance of our
talk about.
Okay, so let's use that ID. Let's use that same ID we used to vote.
Things like that.
Let's use that same ID to vote. You have to have that same ID to buy a gun.
Yes.
How about that compromise? I will offer up that compromise to the Republicans.
I'm with that.
You have to have an ID to vote. You have to have this ID to buy a gun or assault weapon. I'll even take it up to an assault weapon.
Last time I saw somebody buy a gun, they had to show their Virginia driver's license to do it.
Not at gun shows.
Not at gun shows, buddy.
Yes, at gun shows. You guys don't understand the gun show loophole.
Okay.
Every transaction at a gun show from a licensed dealer must
go
through the background checks.
But
not everyone's a licensed dealer.
But not everybody's a licensed dealer.
Right, there are private sales, and I don't know how.
And
I'm really glad we got back to gun. But I want to give John some time, since he's actually running this year, to maybe weave some of these issues into how you would describe your positions vis-a-vis your opponent's positions, and also tell us where your district actually is, because I think it's got a funny shape, but I know when I ran, I had to be able to explain that funny shape. So start with that so people know if they're in your district or not.
I agree. It is kind of a funny shape. A lot of the districts are today with the changes that have been made. It starts in Sterling, close to Route 7, goes along Route 28, staying on the Loudoun County side of it, encompasses the Dulles Airport, all the way over to 66, and from there it's basically between 66 and 50 all the way west, just past Route 15 in Haymarket. 17 Loudoun County precincts, 2 Prince William precincts, 90% Loudoun County district.
Okay.
I would have voted against both of these voter bills because I think they're blatant attempts to suppress the youngest, the oldest, and the most disenfranchised people. I think we should make it easier for people to vote, not more difficult. And my district's a district of commuters. We should do things to make it easier. I believe in no excuse early voting. Many people, they go and they have to hit the roads at a certain time to get back and forth to work. They see a long line, they can't wait, and they may not be home in time to vote at the end of the day. I believe that's not a Democratic or a Republican issue. I think it's an American and a Virginian issue, but we should make it easier for people to go vote.
Amen.
What about some of the other issues? Are there other bills that you had been kind of monitoring during the General Assembly deliberations that relate to education or any of the state issues that you would like to speak to?
Well, transportation is obviously the most important issue. District commuters, and like I mentioned before, I think it's important for the future to have a better transportation system. So from a business perspective, you're not spending all of your time on the roads, more time that you can be profitable for your business. But it's a family issue as well. You know, I coach the tennis team, which I talked about earlier, and I see the boys that I coach and their families hurry from their jobs to get home to watch them play and to participate in their after-school activities. And often they show up just as we're finishing, or they can't make it on time. So it's really not just for our district a matter of economics. It's also a family issue. And I'm thinking about, you know, the boys on my team, you know, Alex and Wesley and Evan. It's an issue for them. So I would have voted yes for these bills, and I frankly can't understand how a delegate representing this district could vote no.
Any education bills that came up? I wasn't tracking it that closely myself, but is there anything related to education?
There have been, and obviously education is important. I think our number, you know, my mother is a school retired teacher. I'm a product of a Head Start in education, and the government invested in me for Head Start. Thank you.
They spent money on your education, and it was well spent.
And they invested in me with, I entered the Air Force, I enlisted right out of high school, and they invested in me to get my bachelor's degree and 2 master's degree, and that investment, I'm very thankful for it. So education is important to me. That's why I volunteer in the schools, because I believe after-school activities are an extension of the classroom. My opponent, David Ramadan, has one of the lowest education voting scores in the General Assembly. I think, you know, education, we have great universities, but we need to have great education at earlier levels so our children will get into those schools.
Well, and that pre-K issue, I think is actually part of the president's bill that he just, the budget that just came out, that basically says we can cut here, but pre-K and universal access to pre-K education is critical. And I know that was something that Tim Kaine really worked hard on. I don't know where we are with that, though.
The sequester has cut Head Start really badly.
Okay.
And hopefully that'll get resolved, but it doesn't help that Congress and the Senate took a 3-week vacation right in the middle of it, so.
What do you think?
I couldn't agree more. It is an investment.
Last I checked, the president was on vacation too. So.
Well, you know, it's not his choice about when Congress is in session. If they're not sending him any bills to sign, what's he going to do? And so far as
he might work with them instead of going to Florida to play golf with Tiger and the sequester's looming and everybody's working and the president's in Florida playing golf with Tiger.
I have to say,
for the record,
no, I'll let somebody else say it.
For the record, George Bush set the record for most days on vacation.
All right.
Just want to make that clear.
That would be fine. We're talking about Obama, not Bush.
And Obama has taken fewer vacation days than any president for the last 40 years.
And that's fine, but do you take them the 4 days before the sequester is going to hit when all the deals are being cut? Or do you go to Florida and play golf with Tiger?
All of Congress was off on vacation too. Who is he supposed to deal with? Their secretaries, the people who are...
They have cell phones, Liz. He can get them.
I'm sure that he was on the cell phone with them.
I'm sure he wasn't.
I'm sure he was.
Absolutely sure he wasn't.
All right, I don't want to nitpick about the president's schedule, but
if the president had called the speaker, there would have been a press release on it.
I think there's another issue we're kind of in the middle of right now.
There was a press release, wasn't there, about the speaker actually saying, no, I'm not going to come? I'm not going to talk with you?
No, I don't remember.
Yes, there was,
all right,
actually.
That kind of is like an old debate, though, now. Let's talk about where, if anywhere, we're going with immigration reform. Obviously, that's a crucial priority that the president's set out. It seems like we've got, thanks to Senator Rubio and other people that are on the Republican side, are saying, let's get something done here. But
I think a lot. I just did an interview with the Voice of America on this very subject.
Okay.
And they looked at Herndon many years since. And this was a huge hot button issue in Herndon. It seems like the rhetoric and some of the fear has certainly toned down to the point where we can have a conversation on this subject. And I think if you talk across the aisle, there's a consensus that the world didn't end, and it won't end if certain people are just kind of left to go through the process if we formalize a process. And it doesn't mean that
process for citizenship?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. It doesn't mean that we're opening the gates and telling everyone to come in. It's just let's
although,
deal
quite frankly, I don't see that there's a problem with opening the gates and telling everybody to come in. And that's how my grandparents got here. That's how.
I don't think they walked in unprocessed.
They walked in through Ellis Island. They spent the day getting a health check, and.
But we don't do that.
Well, maybe we should. Maybe we should have centers where you could say, okay, come on in and let's see if you're healthy. And
well,
I think the issue is that we're okay with certain people coming in. We always say enforce the borders. We're inferring the southern borders. We're not talking about northern borders. And I think to peel this back even further, it does get to an ugly part of what some people are suggesting. That make sure you keep those people out. And these people are okay to come in. We don't. It's a viewpoint that a lot of people have.
And in reality, if we didn't have basically a second layer of people not being allowed to come in, we would not be having the cheap tomatoes that we've got now, because it's only because people are coming here under cover and being willing to be paid less than minimum wage and being afraid of being deported that they can be exploited, and that we end up having cheap vegetables and fruit.
What do you think, Mike?
I think, look, in the past, my colleagues may disagree with me, the Republican position has been, if we can secure the border first, then we'll talk about everything else. Democrats didn't trust that. They said, no. They said, let's talk about everything else. And the securing the border thing, not so interested in
but
that.
Mike, the facts are that secure the border initiatives have been way beyond past presidents.
So, so now we have maybe a deal in the Senate where we secure the border, certify it secured, and in the same legislation address everything else so that the trust is there and it's all done as one package. Recently, you've heard the President and the Secretary of Homeland Security indicating that no, border security should not be part of the package. In fact, the Secretary of Homeland Security is up there saying that the border is secure, and we know that it's not. If that's negotiating rhetoric, and we're going to come together on the package of doing it all together with a reasonable certification on securing the border, I think we have a deal.
Well,
if that's not negotiating rhetoric, if the president really believes that securing the border should not be part of the package, then it's going to fall apart.
What are we securing the border against? If it's securing the border against people who are committing terrorist acts on us, then we need to secure the border against white Christian supremacists, because that's the people who have been committing the most terrorist acts on American soil in the last 10 years.
All right. I don't know where you get that fact, but I won't argue that one. What I'll say is we're talking about the borders, not people who are already in the country. We can go after anybody who's a criminal who's already in the country, and we ought to do that, anybody who's a criminal already in the country. But we're talking about the border, and if we can get as a comprehensive deal.
Yes,
I love this discussion.
And what are we protecting against?
Which borders?
If you make a
we are protecting against the illegal influx of people who come into the country contrary to the laws of the United States of America. No matter what border they cross, no matter how they get in, no matter what color their skin is.
For what purpose?
For maintaining the integrity of our country. One of the things a country does is maintain the integrity of its borders. That's a standard country 101.
Security.
But if you need to understand what it is that you want to protect the border from. If it's from people traveling across the border at all, without us knowing about it, that's one thing. If it's to affect a particular policy element, that's a different thing. If what we have here are employers who want people to cross the border so that they can exploit them, then you're going to have a lot of money fighting against securing the borders. And you're also going to have a lot of money saying, oh, we are securing the borders because they'll use contract labor, mostly the people that they're trying to keep out, to build those fences. I mean, it's really...
I think, in one sentence, Liz, I think what we're trying to do is to secure the border against the illegal entry of anybody for any reason, under any circumstances, coming into this country without permission if they don't have a right to be here.
See, but when people say that, they always seem to focus on the southern border. And that's my observation.
I think
yeah, but when you come in back from a foreign country, you have to, when you re-enter the country, you have to have some documentation.
Yeah, I mean, when I go on vacation to the islands, I have to show a passport to get back in.
We need to let our candidate have a little more time to just say how you and your opponent are different, and what you would do if you were to be elected this November to the House of Delegates in the 87th District that is different from what Dave Ramadan has done.
Well, first, I'm going to take a moderate approach, and I don't believe an all-or-nothing approach exists. So I'm going to seek compromise. In my military career, I worked as a finance officer. I was charged with managing billion-dollar budgets. Last year, I was a finance officer in Europe. We had a $200 million deficit, and I worked with all the stakeholders, and we all had to make tough choices and compromises to solve problems. And I believe that's what we need to do in the House. He voted 3 times against transportation because it wasn't everything that he wanted. It wasn't everything anybody wanted. We talked about the differences here today and things we all didn't like. I would have voted yes because people are stuck in traffic. They need to get home. It's important for our future. Also, he voted no against the Virginia budget because it might include Medicaid expansion. Again, it can't be all or nothing. I believe that sometimes we have to make tough choices and we have to make compromises that are for the better, that are put our district above everyone else and put the needs of the people in the Commonwealth, and that's what I'll do.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Cesar, do you have any things on that your committee is focused on for this year?
We're going to continue registering citizens that can vote, educate them, inform them, and we're going to have outreach to dozens of languages and cultures, and we're going to get those people to the polls. And we're going to deliver the county, help Northern Virginia for our candidates, Terry McCullough and the down ballot folks as well.
Okay.
So.
He's reading directly from our playbook. That's exactly what the Republicans are going to do.
But I'll do a Mitt Romney wager. We'll deliver Fairfax.
Okay, that's another.
No, I'm not betting against you. I'm betting on you.
Okay, all right.
Thanks for joining us for our first show of 2013, and we'll see you next month on the road too. Thanks, guys.